Welcome back to College Football Countdown, week number 7. We're flying around here. I mean, we're almost halfway done with the season. Feels like it just got started. Reginald, how we doing today?
We're doing good. We're doing good, man. How you doing?
Yeah, it's crazy how quick the season's been flying by. There's been some great games. Last week we saw a couple classics. We saw Alabama lose, which we didn't even want to talk about that game because we thought it was too easy. That was pretty crazy, huh?
Definitely, that Bama upset was something that I think the whole world knew about. But
Yeah, and we
yeah,
saw a buzzer beater to win it
mm,
in Texas, Oklahoma. That game was wild. You know, as soon as you start to expect the unexpected in college football is all I have to say.
you did say that last week when we did the show, but
Yeah, and if you want to bet these games, do it with DraftKings Sportsbook code Sports 2.0 up to $1,000 will match your deposit. Okay, so week number 7 here. Uh, I'd like to call this apple picking week because last week there was great games everywhere. This week, if we're being honest, it's not doesn't have the same pop, but we'll make it work. We'll start here on Friday night. Clemson travels to the Carrier Dome to play Syracuse, and I don't know if you remember this. This feels like one of those games that there was Syracuse beat Clemson in the Carrier Dome I think it was a Friday night game like a couple years ago. And now every time this game happens, I just assume Syracuse is going to win. But how do you feel about that, Reginald?
um, I don't, for this game, I actually like Clemson. I feel like they've been going steady. I don't feel like you know Syracuse is gonna show out. So I like Clemson for this game.
Yeah, it does feel like it's only a matter of time before Clemson. They're just too talented, but they do have a lot of injuries right now. I'd probably take Clemson Syracuse to stay within the number, but be hard to see Clemson lose another game here early in the season.
Exactly.
It's obviously been weird seeing Clemson. They don't have a number next to their name right now. When's the last time you think Clemson wasn't ranked? It's been a while.
I can't remember the last time Clemson wasn't ranked. To be honest with you.
Yeah, I know it's pretty crazy. I mean, you can't expect that coming into the season, but that's where we are right now. And Clemson's been a mediocre team, but I don't think that'll last for too long.
Yeah.
And so, what do we? I think next year we got Oklahoma State traveling to Texas. Texas, obviously, coming off a devastating loss. What do you see here?
I feel like Texas is gonna have a bounce back, and I know Oklahoma State is not exactly an easy school to play, but I don't know. I see Texas. I see Texas coming off a loss, and they're gonna play with some grit. So I think I'm taking Texas.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I mean, if you looked at a lot of the quotes after that game, is Texas wants another shot at Oklahoma in the Big 12 championship game, and frankly, they won't get that if they lose this game. So it feels like that this is going to be their most important performance of the season. It'd be hard. It'd be hard to see them lay an egg this week after what happened.
They're gonna show out.
I think they have to. I mean, first year head coach Bijan Robinson might win the Heisman. I mean, the guy's unbelievable. Uh, if he puts on a show here, he might be right back in the Heisman talks. That's another thing about college football is usually at this point in the year, there's a few guys who step up and are at the front of the Heisman talks, and this year it hasn't been that way. Huh?
That is true. Um, I don't know. I like I said, I like Texas to come back, but it's not gonna be an easy game for sure. It's gonna they're gonna battle it out. I see Texas though.
Yeah, and one thing to note here is if you don't watch a lot of Big 12 football, Oklahoma State is not who they usually are. They can't move the ball right now. Like they're really struggling offensively, but defensively they've really been locking it up, and which has kept them in a lot of the games and kept them undefeated to this point.
What would you say? What would you say their main issue is on offense?
They turn the ball over too much. The Spencer Sanders, that's been his biggest issue since he got to Oklahoma State. Is he turns the ball over way too much, and you can't win games if you turn the ball over. But at the same time, I mean, what we saw from that Texas defense last week, you could probably throw me and you out there, and we could find the end zone a couple times. You
Not
think?
lying.
You could split out wide at receiver. Would you make some moves on people?
I mean, I'm about 6'4", 220.
Tight end then. You could play tight end.
Yeah.
I
But
can
yeah.
see. All right,
Auburn.
we'll move on
Auburn.
here to the Arkansas Auburn game. Auburn traveling to Arkansas. What do you like here?
I like Arkansas, man. They're home. They're not been playing terrible. You know, I don't. I'm not really a big Arkansas guy. I never really liked them, anyways. Give me. I'm in Auburn. Give me Arkansas. That's all the way.
Yeah, I agree. I like Arkansas here too. It feels like because Arkansas got off to such a hot start that no one was expecting, and it felt like they were going to be this year's Cinderella team. But they've kind of they've back-to-back losses, but against pretty good teams. They could have won that game last week. I do like Arkansas here. I know I brought this up a couple weeks ago. Of a gambler's principle is to fade Bo Nix on the road. I know he won his last start on the road, but I'd like to see him do it twice in a row before I get off that. I'd take Arkansas here. And what do we got next? So this game to me is very interesting because I said last week that Coach O is going to get fired if they lose to Kentucky, and they didn't just lose to Kentucky; they got pounded. So they're gonna lose this week. I mean, yeah. Do you think Coach O is the coach of LSU on Sunday?
I think. Wait, do I think Coach O is the coach of LSU?
Do you think he gets
Sunday?
fired immediately after this game? Because I think he does.
Well, they're definitely gonna lose. That's for one. But I don't. I think they're still gonna keep him, even though there's gonna be a loss. I don't know, but definitely he's gonna have to show out after this game because they're not beating Florida, even though it's home for them. It can't beat them.
No.
I'm going with Florida for this one. I have to.
Yeah, LSU just seems like they quit. I mean,
Yeah.
if you take out, I mean, it's hard to say this because the LSU team a couple years ago, you could make the argument was the best college football team ever. So it was kind of hard to say if you
100%.
take out the best team ever. But if you do take that out, Coach O is like a 500 head coach, and everywhere he's been, whether it was USC or Ole Miss, and at LSU, that's just not going to cut it. And right now, they're not putting a product in the field that's going to cut it for them.
LSU is definitely gonna struggle on offense a lot. Like I think they're gonna struggle on offense. They're probably gonna throw a couple picks because Florida's defense is good, better than their offense. So I don't know. LSU is really gonna have a hard time winning this as well. Um, I don't like LSU anymore. Like to win almost anything, they're just not showing out. Like you said, they're not the same team they were a couple years ago. You'd be making that argument that LSU was going to win a national championship, but now it's like they're not even in the running anymore. So
Yeah, it's honestly, I mean,
yeah.
Coach O seems like a good dude. I mean, it's kind of sad to see. I mean, I remember after they beat Alabama, he was doing the whole like victory lap, saying like this is just the start. Like we're gonna start beating Alabama every year now, and now he's gonna be fired after like halfway through.
Yeah, I say 2 more losses, he's out of there.
And if you look at their schedule,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't get easier. I mean, that would be the one thing that could be his saving grace because they got Alabama coming up soon.
Oh.
They got. I mean, they're playing in the SEC West. Like, it's never going to be easy. But I think.
They play Mississippi, too.
Yeah, they got a tough schedule coming up.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's play a game. So, if he doesn't get fired after this week, geez, that would be the one thing that could save his job is I don't think you want to go to Alabama with like
a new coach. Yeah, with new head coach.
So even if it's really bad, you might as well just keep him and just know you're going to get absolutely pounded by Alabama.
Yeah, but I will say if they do put up an okay performance against Alabama, that might be a saving grace. Yeah.
But the LSU is not looking for okay performances against Alabama. They're looking to win.
Yeah, but they're not going to win.
So think about it. So we both think he's going to lose this week.
100%.
Then they play at Ole Miss next week. You think they're going to win that game? No. So then they lose that one. They're not going to win at Alabama.
Yeah, he has no choice but to win.
3-6. What when is 3-6 ever good enough at LSU?
Yeah. He pretty much job's on the line as far as I'm concerned. He pretty much has to win against Bama.
Yeah. Or yeah, we'll see. I mean, it's tough being coach right now.
Yeah, especially after this weekend, they're gonna just be coming off that Florida loss, so they're gonna be down. Spirit's gonna be down. We'll see though.
Yeah, and this is sad because this game's like at noon. Like usually when Florida plays LSU, it's a night game. It's like the crowd's electric, but now it's going to be no one's going to be there. They don't want to watch the terrible product.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Moving on here to what do we got dialed up next? I think it is. Do you want to move on here, Tanner? Yeah, we got Kentucky. So speaking of SEC programs, so Georgia. You think they're obviously the best team right now in the country, right?
Yes, of course, 100%.
I mean, this is a big number to cover, though. I mean, you have to assume Georgia's 1 week. Not that they're going to lose, but they're going to look human at some point.
Hear me out. Hear me out. I think Kentucky is the biggest sham scam. I think Georgia is going to cover it. Georgia's offense and they're just Georgia. They're going to put up points regardless. I think Kentucky should not even be anywhere in the conversation where they are. I don't know how what are they, like 6-0 right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they should be that. I think Georgia is going to cover this. I think Georgia might actually 30 ball them, to be honest with you. That's how I feel about this.
Yeah, and they've shown the ability to do that. I mean, I remember saying this when Arkansas played at Georgia. They were asking how many points do you think Arkansas is going to score, and I said they're going to score 3 points against Georgia's defense, and I was wrong. They scored 0. I mean, that defense is unbelievable. They don't let anything up. And if you're Kentucky, they've struggled moving the ball against not great teams. Like South Carolina kept them in check. Florida obviously kept them in check. Florida, it was like a blocked field goal that won.
Yeah, it was just like a blocked field. And I will say another thing is, if you like check Kentucky's like previous games, with the exception of Florida, I don't think they've played anybody ranked. Like I know they played LSU, but they're obviously not doing good.
They played it and quit.
Yeah, they quit. Like they really quit. And even at that, like they didn't like up the score and like to anything too crazy. They still gave up 21 points to LSU. So I think, if LSU is scoring 21 on your team, like what is Georgia gonna do?
Yeah, it feels inevitable. But at the same time, as soon as you start expecting things in college football, that's when you start.
We saw that happen last week.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Kentucky's going to win this game, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's a little closer than people say.
I would be. I definitely would be. I think they're the biggest scam right now. I don't like Kentucky at all. Definitely should not be ranked. What are they, number 11? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you have to we'll do more schedule talk.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at Kentucky's schedule, this is where it gets interesting. If Kentucky wins this game, I'm not saying they're going to. They're not going to win this game. But if they were to somehow win this game, they have a bye. Then they play at Mississippi State, which is winnable. They're home for Tennessee, which I think they'll win that game. They play at Vanderbilt, which they'll definitely win that game. They're home for New Mexico State, and then they play at Louisville. So you could, if they win this game, Kentucky's going to be in the college football playoff. And they're not going to win this game. But the reality is they're not going to lose a game. I mean, I shouldn't say that because they're Kentucky. They can obviously choke one of those games. But they're going to be heavily favored in each of their games coming up.
They will be, but like I said, give me Georgia. Give me Georgia on that spread.
Yeah. I'm just saying, like, if chaos breaks out and Kentucky has one loss and it's a close loss to Georgia on the road, you might see Kentucky in the playoff.
I mean, I looked at their schedule as well. Probably won't make the playoffs. I think it's not super hard. They've got the hard part out the way. Like
And they're undefeated. I mean, do I think Kentucky's going to make the playoff? No chance. But I shouldn't say no chance. I don't think they're going to make the playoff. But if you look at what they have in front of them, it is very, very, very manageable after this week.
Yeah. So, it also depends how they do against Georgia. Like if they, obviously they're going to lose. If they hold their own against Georgia, I'm going to have to give them some props as much as
Let's say they lose. Let's say they lose in 3 overtimes at Georgia, and that's their one loss. They're going to make the playoff.
100%.
And that's crazy to think that Kentucky would be in the college football playoff.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on here. So the more SEC love here. Alabama plays at Mississippi State. So Alabama's played two road games this year. They've played at Florida, which they could have easily lost that game, and they played at Texas A&M, and they did lose that game. And now they play at Mississippi State. So do you think Mississippi State can keep it close?
No. I think Bama's gotten a spanking from their coaches, and I really think that they're gonna come with like some heat, even though it's an away game. But they're away. They're not doing good on the road, like you said. They're not doing good on the road, but I feel like they're just coming off a loss, like a big loss to a school that they should have trashed, if anything. I feel like Bama has something to prove, so I think they're gonna win by a lot. Like I think you're just gonna go at it like 100% the whole time.
Yeah, I already bet Mississippi State plus the 17. I want to wait until Alabama shows something on the road, because in college sports in general, it's 2 completely different teams at home and on the road. Like you can look all across the country. You can look at college basketball too. Like it is a completely different game when you're like college kids going on the road. And in the past, it clearly has not come close to mattering for Alabama. They just destroy everyone that's in front of them. But clearly this year they've shown that they're not that same team. Now, could they turn around and win the national championship? Of course they can, but they still have a few hurdles in front of them. And until they show that they can perform well on the road, because we've seen Georgia, they played at they last week at Auburn was a really good performance. Like that was an Alabama-like performance.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we'll move on here.
Okay, I couldn't hear you for a second.
Yeah, cut out. All right.
Yeah.
Texas Christian, TCU, travels to Oklahoma. Oklahoma coming off a classic against Texas. Who do you like here?
Give me Oklahoma. I like Oklahoma a lot. And also, what's his name? What's their quarterback? Is Spencer Rattler, right?
Yeah, he got benched. That little bump.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like he's really their weak point, but I still like.
Well, the kid Caleb Williams. When he came in that game, he's unbelievable. But granted,
I don't know. I feel like
I'm leaning TCU here. Not to win the game, to cover.
Okay.
I'm leaning TCU here because if you're Texas, Spencer Rattler and Caleb Williams are 2 completely different players. And they went into that game preparing to play against Spencer Rattler. And they clearly, they were destroying Oklahoma when Spencer Rattler was in at quarterback. And I just feel like Caleb Williams made a lot of great plays, but he did show he wasn't flawless. I felt like that was more of Texas not being prepared to play against him. And he is a very, very talented player. And Oklahoma, they're a better team with him at quarterback. I just think that this line could be a slight overreaction to thinking that just inserting him is just going to get Oklahoma rolling, and they're all of a sudden, because they have not. I don't think they haven't beaten anyone by 2 touchdowns yet. So why should they be favored by 13.5 here when TCU is actually a pretty good team?
I think the main reason why they favor by 13.5 is because TCU, I think they're coming off 2 losses, something like that. So I think they're kind of going in a slump right now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
I still think they're a good team.
didn't they lose to like what was it, SMU?
Yeah, but then
I know you don't like going off like past losses, but
they so I they also they lost at home to Texas too. That was their other loss, and that game, that was a kind of a fluky game. Like they fumbled a couple times, and so when I walked out of that game, I thought that TCU and Texas were very similar teams. Um, and if Texas clearly was good enough to beat Oklahoma last week, I mean that was a coin flip game. Why can't TCU beat them? So if you're giving me 13.5 points, I'll take it.
13.5. I think I'll take that spread too, but yeah. Money line, obviously, give me over.
I don't think TCU will win the game, but we'll see.
But I'll take TCU on the spread.
All right. So this game here, this is something special. So if you didn't know, this is the highest total in SEC history. So right off the bat, Reginald, over under 82 points.
Give me under. I don't see those teams scoring.
These offenses are electric though. Like Ole Miss, it's clockwork. Like they're putting up 40 points every.
Yeah, but do you think they're both gonna put up 40 points against each other? That's another thing.
I mean, I think you have to lean under here, but these offenses are so electric. I mean, the total is kind of taken away. That's what most of the talk this week is about, how the over-under is 82 points. It's crazy. I mean, there's going to be so many points in this game. But I think this is actually a pretty good game. I mean, Tennessee is going to be jumping this week. They haven't played a big game like this in a long time. Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin, he's the former coach at Tennessee. They absolutely hate him there. It should be interesting. I like.
Is it where are they playing?
They're playing in Tennessee.
They played it. Okay, so I mean that gives an edge to Tennessee because like Tennessee came to Florida. They're a great scoring team. They score like 14 points. So I don't know. I don't see them definitely going over 82 if they play Ole Miss, which is relatively decent, good school, you know. So I don't know. I don't know if they're both gonna cover 40 points or the team. No, 82 is a stretch. So
I like Tennessee to win this game. So while the Texas-Oklahoma game was happening last week, was the same time was Ole Miss was playing Arkansas, and everyone was, I mean, rightfully so, talking about how bad the defense was in Texas-Oklahoma. But if you want to see bad defense, I mean, Arkansas, Ole Miss, those two teams, they didn't play any defense, and it was terrible. There was Ole Miss couldn't stop anything. I just don't think that that's a successful formula to go win on the road in what Tennessee can call one of their biggest games in a while. I just don't know how they can win this game going in with a high school level defense. I'll take Tennessee to win the game.
Yeah, I'll take Tennessee to win the game too. What was that Arkansas? I think they only won by 1 point, right?
Yeah, they went for 2. Arkansas went for 2 assignment because they scored assignment, so I went for 2 and didn't get it. But yeah, Ole Miss's defense is bad, really, really bad.
But their offense is something else.
It's electric. It is electric. But that's where the SEC bias comes in, is because when SEC teams don't play any defense, they just, all their fans say like, oh, the offenses are great. But then when when the Big 12 doesn't play defense, they say like, oh, look, those defenses stink. Like, no, the FCC defenses are really bad. And it's time to get around to that. Like, these Tennessee and Ole Miss do not play defense. Yeah. So I mean, 82 is a lot. It's tough to take that over, but it's also tough to take Ole Miss as a road favorite when they're not going to get any stops.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's gonna be either. Like I said, I'll take Tennessee to win, but I definitely think that whichever team wins, I don't think it's gonna be a close game. That's one thing I want to say.
Yeah.
Whoever gets that edge, I don't think it's gonna be a close game. That's why I'm saying I'm going definitely under 82 because I feel like whoever is winning is just gonna dominate whichever one of these two teams. But like I said, I like Tennessee to win.
Yeah. All right, we'll move on here. So I think that's all we got here for you this week. Do you have a favorite pick of the week there, Reginald?
Florida.
Florida. I think that's a good. I mean, LSU has completely quit. I mean, I think that's a great pick. I don't know. I'd say I really like TCU this week. I just think that we're getting a big overreaction and expecting that Caleb Williams is just going to fix all of Oklahoma's problems. I think they do have deeper problems that game kind of people are just ignoring because of how well they played in the second half. But the reality is Texas was not preparing to play against that quarterback. And Gary Patterson's a good defensive coach. He'll have a week to throw something together. That guy hates Oklahoma. He would love nothing more than to beat him. I don't know.
So Oklahoma's undefeated, right?
Yeah.
So you're telling me TCU is going to be hand them their first loss?
No, I don't think they're gonna. I don't think they're gonna win the game. Like if they're plus 13.5,
oh, plus 13. We'll see.
But I think they can. I think they definitely can win the game. Yeah. But I don't think they're going to win the game. But I just love TCU this week. That's all I've said. I love TCU straight up.
We're gonna come back next week to your favorite pick, and I'm telling you, I think that Oklahoma's gonna cover it.
Well, I don't know. Like, what has Oklahoma showed that they're just gonna that like everything's just fixed? I don't get it. Like, they have not beaten a team by 14 points all year.
Yes, they did. They 76-0 the team, but they're not.
Oh no, that game doesn't count.
Yeah, that game doesn't count.
That's like
most of their games have been really close though. I mean, for 13 against TCU, I'm not keen on TCU.
Come on, I mean, whatever. The one thing that does scare me is TCU does have some injury issues. I think that's just keeping the line up to 13.5. But in reality, there's these as a rule of principle, like injuries in college football aren't as big of a deal as they are in other sports because these rosters have so many talented players and people, the bettors tend to overreact to injuries. So a lot of times if you go against that grain, you end up having success. So I don't know. I like TCU this week. Again, though, as you see, this isn't a crazy good slate. That's why you have to bet the games to keep you entertained. I mean, there's not any games that have like big college football playoff implications this week. So we'll see. I mean, other than Kentucky, Georgia, which I said if Kentucky wins, they'll be in the playoff.
I think so too. I can agree with you on that.
But they're not, we both know they're not winning that game. We both know that. All right. I think that's all I got. You got anything else, Reginald?
That's about it for me, man.
All right. Thank you. We'll shut it down right here.
All right.